Well, good evening, everyone. This is John Craig, and it's good to be back with you again here in Walking in Spirit and Truth. And it's another journey that we're going to go on today in for Ezra. So I'm so glad that you guys are joining us, Linda and Luann. I see you guys in there. It is, I miss seeing you guys in person and giving you a hug. That's so big hugs to you out there in the great state of Utah. But I tell you what, did this week go by like super fast? Hey, and there's Eddie and Tammy. So great to see you guys as well. So we got out west and back east and right here in Texas. However, I pointed the wrong direction because the way this room is set, it's actually back east and out west. All right, so let's get that right. Oh my goodness. Walking in Spirit and Truth. That's where we are today. It's still me and Pastor Sandy. I'm gonna call her back from her little hiatus so that shortly we have to finish for Ezra first. But she does such a great job, and I know that y'all have missed her. So so we're gonna have her back at some point in time here in the near future. And so who am I and who is she? Well, we pastor Life of Worship Ministries here in Amarillo, Texas. And you are welcome to join us every Shabbat here live at our services, and where we have the Torah portion at noon on Shabbat Central Time. We also have our encounter service, which begins at 3 o'clock. And following, so it's a time of praise and worship and ministry, and it's followed by a message. And I hope everybody's been enjoying that whole series. Pastor Sandy put together 10 series that came out of the teaching that Eddie Chumney had shared with us here at Life of Worship, and where he spent a week with us at our house, and where we went in and we discussed the Zadokite priesthood, the restoration of the rod of Aaron, and the implications of it today. And we discovered, wow, I'm just going to say it that way. We learned some things, that those things were hidden in the Dead Sea Scrolls about that community of the Ahad, the community, which out of that was the Natsir, which is the Nazarenes, and what did they go through? What did they go through in the Second Temple period? What did they go through during the time of Yeshua and leading up to the destruction of the temple? And what were some things that got changed? Well, I want to send you back to the Life of Worship channel. I'm not going to go through all that again today like I did that last 2 weeks, but you can go to the Life of Worship channel and pick up the playlist and look at the Zadokite priesthood and that whole series. Start at the beginning with Eddie Chumney and then go through it one by one. Don't jump in the middle of it, because everything builds upon the next. So, all right. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and scroll on the bottom of the screen before we jump right into for Ezra. And this is how you can get in contact with us here at Life of Worship Ministries. And that's our website. It's going across the bottom of the screen, www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. And we would love for you to stop in there and check out our website. We don't have a lot on there. You can pick up most of our teachings there on YouTube. And all of this series for Ezra is under the playlist for Walking in Spirit and Truth, because that's where we're watching it right now and sharing this time together. So you can go back and catch for Ezra from the very beginning and go with us in the stages, chapter by chapter, and you're going to see, wow, this belief system that we have today as believers, do you know where it came from? It goes all the way back to this guy called Ezra. Well, who's Ezra? Well, yeah, he was a contemporary of Nehemiah. He was the scribe. He was a priest in the priestly lineage of Zadok, who was also in the lineage of Pinchas and Eleazar and Aaron. So priesthood line, that's who Ezra is. And this guy has been having encounters. I'm telling you what, I mean, he's been asking the hard questions. You think, well, you think, there's some unbelievers that are out there, and sometimes I wonder if they really want to know when they ask the hard questions, or if they're just kind of blowing hot air. Nevertheless, I think there's a little of both camps, but Ezra was asking the hard question. So he gets a visitation from the Most High. But, before he gets the visitation, he's told to go out in the field and fast for 7 days. Then he gets a download. And then he has like, well, what about this and that? He said, well, you need to go fast for 7 more days. And he did multiple 7 days. And then he was told, you can eat the flowers of the field, the herbs and those type of things that grow naturally in the field. You can eat those. You can get off your fast. And in this process, man, he is getting download after download after download. And that's this journey that we've been on. And I've been having a good time. So I hope you are too. So whether you're catching it now or catching it on the archives, either way, you guys are all a part of our family, and we love having you here. And if you have a chance, and if you are able to do this, we are like right in the middle of the month, and we got our bills paid from last month, and except our water, it's still kind of outstanding. But we really appreciate your generous offerings and the tithes that you've sent. And you can go to our website where you can click on that donate button, and you can be and share and from your finances, pray for us, be part of our family. Let's build a community here that we can connect with. And we just want to say how grateful we are of what you've been able to do so far, and be part of it. We have a huge family. Actually, there's a lot of people that join us online throughout the course of the week, and whether it's one of the streamcasts here on Lamb Network, or whether it's with us at Life of Worship when we're broadcasting live, or by the archives there on YouTube and Facebook. Either way, a lot of y'all join us, and we are just glad. We'd like to really get to know you. In fact, we could get to know you because we have a feast season that's on its way. Yeah, because we're going to be coming up on the spring. Don't you? Then that sound great? The spring feast season, and April 2nd we're gonna have Passover, and then we're gonna have a Shavuot gathering where we're going to meet back up there at Lake Paladuro for the weekend for Shavuot. It's going to be a great time, glorious time. We just have a great time up there, and we're praying this year lots of rain, except the weekend of Shavuot, like what happened last year. Maybe it's because we were on the wrong day. Could be. Okay, we're going to get it right. No, nevertheless, we were celebrating Shavuot in the wisdom and the understanding that we had at the time. And this year, we're really excited because everything is linking and syncing in together. Then we're also going to gather for Sukkot come October. So that's going to be a great time as well. So you can go to our website, get more information. If those dates are updated, if they're not, they will be updated soon. That's also we've had it in our bulletin, and we will continue to put it into our bulletin. If you ever want a bulletin, just ask and we'll email you a copy. Let you know what's going on here at Life of Worship. Well, we would love for you to come out to the Texas Panhandle and be part of one of our gatherings. Just on top of that, come by on Shabbat and be live with us. All right. Well, that's going to take us to for Ezra, chapter 14. And last week, okay, do you remember where we left off last week? And where I said, hey, I don't have time to go through all of these cross references that I looked up because they're really good. It really goes right along with Ezra and what his experience is. And then I said, yeah, but what about these 5 scribes that Ezra brought out into the field with him? Remember that? The 5 scribes? And I said, you know what? When names are listed sequentially within Scripture, names mean something. And I didn't look up the definitions of their names last week, but I'm going to say, I said, I'm going to look at these and I'm going to see, what does their Hebrew names mean? And is there any type of meaning that it gives us in the context of the scripture that we're reading here in 4 Ezra? And by the way, if you're going like, where is 4 Ezra? I don't see it in my Bible. Well, it's that way here on, I'm using the Sefer. There it is, Sefer. Move my fingers out of the way. Yeah, the Et Sefer that Dr. Pigeon's Sefer Publishing Group has put together, and so that's what I'm using. But if you're like, well, I don't have that Bible, and I went online and double checked the website, it's like $90 for just the this version of the scriptures by itself, and then you can get the tabs because the book orders are in a different order, and so you can get tabs, you can get a book cover, you can get other accessories as well with it. So you can go to the Sefer Publishing Group and check that out for yourself. But if you have the King James version with the Apocrypha, it's listed as two Estras. So I like using my eSword, and in my eSword, I've downloaded the version of the KJV with Apocrypha, and I do use that when I'm needing to look up something electronically. So, but I like my hard copy Bible. I just do. So we were in for Ezra chapter 14, and we were looking at. So let's get to those names. Let's give you the names first, and then we're going to go to the cross references, and then we're going to go and kind of refresh and into some new things this week. Okay, so I'm telling you, I looked these things up. What's really strange, because one of the things that I was really curious about in terms of, okay, I would really like to have a parallel version where I can have the original language and then I can have the English next to it. And I would really like to have Strong's numbers next to those words. That would help me work my way through it, because sometimes things get lost in the translation. Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me a lot. In fact, if you were watching it, us here at Life of Worship, I think it was this Shabbat, maybe the week before. I'm just trying to think what it was. And I read a verse. It was like 2 weeks ago. And I read a verse, and my version in the New American Standard Version is one that I tend to look at and read the most, but I know where its little faults are. So you know where the faults are, you can work around that. And I read it, and of course, there are some things that are a mistranslation. And Pastor Sandy was talking about, how the translation makes a difference, and how when things are redacted by particular groups, and we lose things in our translations, it can lead people astray, right? So, nevertheless, this is that's why I would really like it. But as I was looking it up, I was trying to find another version where I could at least have the words, and then I could maybe use other lexicons to look things up. But guess what? What I could find was in Syriac or Aramaic, and also, let's see, I think that was the main one. I think there's some additions that are in the Greek, but they weren't helpful, and they weren't like full pages, and so I'm dealing with those English translations. Okay, we're going to get to this. All right, where was I? I was talking about those five guys. The five guys, like five, isn't there like a burger company? Five Guys, burgers, five. Okay. All right, let's get back on track. For Ezra, chapter 14, verse 24. Verse 24. And verse 24, chapter 14, verse 24. But look, prepare you many box trees, and take with you Saraya, Dabria, Shelemyahu, Etan, and Asiel. Oh my goodness. That's a whole nother thing right there. All right, I'm going to have to look that up. Because that's like a game changer. What is it? It is 2906. All right, so I'm going to look up 29. This is lifetime, guys. And when I discover stuff, you're going to discover it with me. How's that sound? If my eSword will cooperate. Okay, we'll make it work. Okay, so here we had Saraya, Dabria, Shelemyahu, Etan, and Asiel. So I have these names, and I went through and I looked at their meaning, And of course, you know what it says in the King James version of the Apocrypha? Eton is actually a kanus, a kanus. That's like totally Greek. So what we're looking at, if you're looking at the King James version of the Apocrypha, your version may be the version that was translated from the Septuagint in the Greek. Well, I can't say the Septuagint, but it was a translation maybe from the Aramaic into the Greek, and it was from the Greek that they translated into English in your edition. I would like to have more information on that, but that's my assumption. But so anyway, so you put those names together, and this is what it means. Sarya can mean Prince of Yah. Yah has prevailed and Yah has set free. Dabria can mean, okay, do you see in that word Dabria, Dabria? Dabria is in the English phonetically spelled, transliterated spelling. Dabria, Devaria. So what is Devar? It's the word. So it's the word of Yah. It also relates to the 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 door of the strong leader's house, the house of Yah, or the door of the strong leader, the house of Yah. So the door of the strong leader, the house of Yah. Who is that? The word of Yah. That would be Yeshua, wouldn't it be? Okay, what about this? Shelem Yahu. Well, that means, and it stands for, it can mean like the peace of God, but Shalem is actually talking more about recompense, or talking about being repaid, as in repaid by Yah, repaid by Yah. We were talking about that in the Torah portion about recompense. How, you know how the Israelite people, they went and took the gold and the silver and the precious things from the Egyptians because it was recompense to them. They were being recompensated for that which they did not get paid for while they were in their slavery. So that's Shalom Yahu. And then Etan, or Akanus. And so this is kind of interesting because we said Etan is like a sharp rock. It's like a rock or a boulder or a sharp rock or something like that. But it also seems to relate to, by definition, it means which see, like in order, like a people which see, like we can see. So think about that for a second. And Asiel means made by God. It comes from the word asaf, asaf. So Asayel, El, is made by God. It can also be, to me, it seems like it relates to that which is created by God, or that which Yah is doing. That which Yah is doing. And so what does it mean put together? You can get a little creative with this, but you can thematically put these together. So I kind of put these together in a sentence, which is, Prince of Yah has prevailed to set free and sever the chains and restraints by the word of Yah, and is repaid by Yah, which causes one to see what Yah is doing. How is that? So let me say that again. The Prince of Yah has prevailed to set free and sever the chains and restraints by the word of Yah, and is repaid by Yah, which causes one to see what Yah is doing. Or you could also say it this way: the Prince of Yah has prevailed to set free and sever the chains and restraints by the word of Yah, and is repaid by Yah, which causes one to see that which is made by Yah. So either way works: that which is made by Yah, or to be able to see what Yah is doing. And then now when we put this in context with what Ezra is and what he's experiencing, well, this is where he's going to come and get this download. And the download then what's the download do? What does a download from Yah always do? Tell me. What does a download from Yah always do? It causes us to step into peace, where we are humbled, because ekanus is also related to worship and bowing low. So, and being tamed by Yah. We're not a wild man anymore, but we're being tamed by him, which relates to what we can see. So out of this experience, he gets to see these things, the Prince of Yah, the one who sets us free, the one who breaks the chains and the restraints by his very word, that causes us to profit by that experience and by that relationship, because we can see what God's doing. I mean, isn't it always good when we have those encounters with God that first he works on us and we step into his presence and he sets us free and we're humbled by that experience, and it comes because of his word. It's just living and active. It's a two-edged sword, and where he rewards us for that breakthrough. It's like it's being repaid for time lost. He rewards us for that breakthrough, because what we get, our great reward, he's our great reward. And then it's like a veil is removed from our eyes and we can see what he's doing in our situation and in our circumstances. And we can see not only what he's doing, but on the flip side of it, we see what he's already made. I love that. So last week when we were talking about this, he's given this, he's told what's going to happen. He said, meet with the people, tell them to repent, tell them to get their lives straight, get their houses in order. And then in verse 34, it says, therefore, if so be that you will subdue your own understanding and reform your hearts, and you shall be kept alive, and after death you shall obtain mercy. And after death shall the judgment come, when we shall live again, and then shall the name of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the wicked shall be declared. Well, where do we see that in other scripture that parallels that? Well, I found that over, first off, in 2 Corinthians 5:10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Messiah, that each one may be recompensed for his deeds in the body, according to what he has done, whether good or bad. Thanks, Terry. Focus. Thank you. All right. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Messiah, that each one may be recompensed, repaid for his deeds in the body, according to what he has done, whether good or bad. Well, we just saw that in the names, right? Okay, so let's look at another cross-reference for that verse, and that's over in Revelation chapter 20, verse 11 and 12. And I saw a great white throne, and him who sat upon it, from whose presence earth and heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from the things which were written in the books according to their deeds. And the sea gave up the dead, verse 13, which were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and they were judged, every one of them according to their deeds. And death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. So for after death shall judgment come, when we shall live again, and then shall the names of the righteous be manifest. Those are your cross references over in the Brit Hadashah. And the works of the wicked shall be declared, and they will get repaid. So that's what it's very clear. And remember, this is Ezra. He wrote it around 435 before Christ, before Messiah. He wrote these words. And then we see, isn't it interesting that Paul would write similar words? And John, too, would write similar words. Would you think that perhaps John and Paul studied in the same community? Maybe they spent time in the community of the Yahad? I would think so, because Ezra he's priest 200 years, maybe 300 years before the community of Yahad, but they kept these in the libraries in the temple, and then took them with them into the Qumran communities and the communities of the Yahad, and they studied these writings and the principles of the writings. So that's that part. And then it says, so I took the 5 men, remember the 5 names, as he commanded me, and we went into the field and remained there. And the next day, behold, a voice called me, saying, Ezra, open your mouth and drink that I give you to drink. Then I opened my mouth, and behold, he reached me a full cup, which was full, as it were, with water, but the color of it was like fire. And I took it and drank. And when I had drunk of it, my heart uttered understanding, and wisdom grew in my breast. For my ruach strengthened my memory, and my mouth opened and shut no more. Well, where do we see similar things to that? Well, let's go over to Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 14. It says, therefore, thus says Yahweh, the El of hosts, because you have spoken this word, behold, I am making my words in your mouth fire, and this people wood, and it will consume them. Woohoo! Wow. Fire. Isn't it interesting? I'm making my words. Didn't he eat a scroll? I think he ate a scroll earlier in Jeremiah chapter 2. Now, let's go to the next verse. It's Jeremiah 23:29. Jeremiah 23:29. This whole fire in the mouth type of thing. Is not my word like fire, declares Yahweh, and like a hammer which shatters a rock? So there you go. Is not my word like fire? Wasn't one of those guys' name? Davariya. Yep. So isn't my word like fire? And then also Jeremiah 20 verse 9. 20 verse 9. Let's go back a couple more chapters. And 20 verse 9. 20 verse 9, which says, but if I say, I will not remember him or speak anymore in his name, then in my heart it becomes like a burning fire, shut up in my bones, and I'm weary of holding it in, and I cannot endure it. So look at that. So this is what's happening to Ezra here. And I took it and drank, and when I had drunk of it, my heart uttered understandings and wisdom, and it grew in my breast, and my ruach strengthened my memory, and my mouth, change the page there, opened and shut no more. And so, wow, what just a powerful experience. But wait, there's more. And this last experience is over there in Luke. Y'all know this passage, but I'm going to bring it to you. Luke 24, verse 32. Luke 24, verse 32. And it says, talking about the disciples on the road to Emmaus with Yeshua. In verse 32 says, and their eyes were open, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. That's verse 31. And they said to one another, were not our hearts burning within us while he was speaking to us on the road, while he was explaining the scriptures to us? Woohoo! So there you go. The word burns like a fire, like a fire. Let's go on to this next part. And so, as we finished up last week, we were talking about El Elyon gave understanding unto the 5 men, and they wrote wonderful visions of the night that were told, which they knew not. And they sat for 40 days, and they wrote in the day, and at night they ate bread. As for me, I spoke in the day, and I held not my tongue by night. Because it's like fire shut up in your bones, right? Is that right, Ezra? Yeah. In 40 days, they wrote 204 Sepharim, 204 books. And it came to pass when the 40 days were filled that El Elyon spoke, saying, the first that you have written, publish openly, that the worthy and unworthy may read it. But keep the 70 last, that ye may deliver them only to such as be wise among the people. For in them is the spring of understanding, the fountain of wisdom, and the stream of knowledge. And I did so. Do you realize there's something that's connected with the stream of understanding, the fountain of wisdom, and the stream of knowledge? Would the spring, the fountain, and the stream, does it sound very familiar that it is for those who are found worthy, those that are wise among his people, that we get the same water? Would that make sense? This cup that Ezra drank, that it was full, as it were, with water, but its color was like fire. It was like fire. For in them is the spring of understanding, the fountain of wisdom, and the stream of knowledge. And I did so. Wow. So guess what? There's stuff there's words. Like, that's what I love about the Apocrypha, or as some people call the pseudepigrapha. But nevertheless, the Apocrypha, it has a lot of hidden things for us. And when we drink of it, it's like fire. It's like it's doing something inside of me. Did not my heart burn within me? My heart's kind of burned within me while we've been studying Ezra because of the truths that are within it. So let's move on to chapter 15. Chapter 15, behold, speak in the ear of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in your mouth, says Yahweh, or Yahweh, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Well, that just reminded me of another verse over in the book of Revelation about the one. So this is that whole correlation where we keep seeing Yeshua pop up. Well, I think this is another place where Yeshua is popping up. It says, cause them, I will put in the words of prophecies, which I will put in your mouth. The words of prophecy, which I'll put in your mouth, says Yahweh, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And then we go to Revelation, chapter 1, verse 5 of Revelation. And from Yeshua the Messiah, the faithful witness, the firstborn of the dead, the ruler of the kings of the world, to him who loves us and released us from our sins by his blood. And he has made us to be a kingdom, priest to his God and Father. To him be the glory and dominion forever and ever. And I'm trying to also think maybe it was in one of the letters to the assemblies where he identifies as he who is faithful and true, and also where John is told to write in a book what you see and send it to the 7 assemblies. So what are these things? These are prophetic words and written on paper, and they are faithful and true. In other words, they're telling about Yeshua. So Yeah, just some extra thoughts, extracurricular activity for you to go back and research as well. He who is faithful and true. And I really think that there's a direct correlation here in Ezra chapter 15. But before we stop there, I want you to go to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. I knew we were going to get to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. I just got it out of order in my mind. All right, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, and that would be verses 4 and 5. So get your finger ready, put it in that spot, and then we'll read it here after I read this. Fear not the imaginations against you. Let not the incredulity of them trouble you that speak against you. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So no matter who those enemies are and how much they hate you and whatever they may be doing against you, and even their intimidation, think about that. The intimidation that comes across because of our own imaginations. We fear what they might do or what they might say. Do you ever have that going on in your head, or is it just me? Just because you know that this person is really, they're evil, they're an enemy to the kingdom, but they're taking it out on you, they're taking it out on me, and it's we've had those people in our lives, right? Polar opposites when it comes to faith and being faithful to Yahweh. But let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 4 and 5. Let's go to verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. We are destroying speculations, or shall we say imaginations, and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of Yah. And we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Messiah. So there you go. I was just thinking about that because we do live in a world that's plagued by the unfaithful and their actions and you think about, we haven't seen it in a lot of places in America, even though it's becoming more and more common in terms of persecution for faith. But in some countries, it's absolute persecution. You gather and you sing your songs and your hymns and your spiritual songs in silence. You just mouth those words. Brother Yun was talking about that in the Heavenly Man book about some of those congregations in China under the rule of the communist Chinese. So going on, it says, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, says Yahweh, I will bring plagues upon the world. So here he's going into now this prophetic thing. And he said, so he's going to this prophetic part, and he said, Yahweh says, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. But so why is he going to do this? Well, I think we all know why, because I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we know why. But let's go on a little bit more, because remember last week we were talking about how there's going to the wickedness is the world is going to become weaker and weaker. In other words, and the evil is going to get greater and greater. And so here we have, for wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Now, what does that mean? He's speaking prophetically. And yeah, I would agree. We are seeing this come to pass, Tammy. And it makes me think about Israel. And Israel was not allowed to leave Egypt until when? Until the sin of the Amorites had become full, right? They couldn't leave until the sin of the Amorites had come to its fullness, or that their hurtful works, until those hurtful works of the Amorites were fulfilled. They had come to their fullest point. Therefore, says Yahweh, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. In other words, all right, Yahweh's saying, I'm restraining myself. I have restrained myself, and now there's no more restraint. And I'm thinking, wow, whoa, woe to the, we see those woes in the book of Revelation, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because Satan is coming in his wrath, because he knows his time is short and that type of thing. But when you think about when Yah stops withholding his righteous right hand, and we begin to see the plagues that come like upon the Egyptians. So this is anybody that's not following Yeshua and not keeping the Torah, the ones that are unfaithful. Then what is going to happen? Just think about that. It's going to be, it's huge. It says, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood cries unto me. Yeah, he's saying it here. The innocent and righteous blood cries unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. So first off, if you think about it, and I've heard it several different times in the different media that I listen to, about how even the blood of the aborted babies, the blood of the innocent, how it goes down the drains, which drains into the sewers, which goes down into the city water systems, where it's the water then goes through a purification process and then goes back into the tap waters of the city. And so there's blood and prescription medication and all sorts of stuff that's in the water, and people are drinking that blood if they're drinking the tap water. That's why Pastor Sandy and I, we drink distilled water, and we started giving our animals distilled water now for a couple of months because of the stuff in the tap water, and we just never thought about it for the animals. But even still, we don't want to be drinking that which might even carry the blood. And like in Amarillo, they're doing their best to not allow any type of abortions in our cities, and yet no matter where we are, the blood of the innocent that's been spilled, that's been recycled into the water system again, and then it says, and the souls of the just complain continually. What are the souls of the just that are complaining continually? Just like Israel in Egypt, just like where they were crying out. They were crying out to Yah to bring great deliverance because the burdens of the slavery was so bad. And Yahweh hears. He says, okay, you've done enough to my people. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. And remember what we were talking about, what he does to the peaceable, what do we call them? The peaceable multitude that were scattered to the four corners of the earth, and he gathers them together. So these are the ones that are protected, his peaceable multitude. But the unfaithful aren't protected. Nope, they're not protected at all. And therefore, says Yahweh, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them, or I will not allow them now to dwell in the land of Mitzrayim. So there we go. There's the second Exodus. He says, I will not allow them. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Mitzrayim. In other words, it's like, okay, it's been a battle time and a lot of people shedding blood and because of the atrocities of the world that we're living in. And he says, I'm done with that. My people are coming out of Egypt. My people are coming out of Egypt, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Mitzrayim with plagues as before. With plagues as before. And we're not just talking about modern Egypt now, right? This is a lot more. Egypt is a picture of the world, just like Babylon is a picture of the world. And Mitzrayim with it, and smite Mitzrayim with plagues as before, and I will destroy all the land thereof. Mitzrayim shall, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Elohim shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with a fearful constellation. Woe to the world, to them and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draws nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. I mean, think about when there is complete social collapse. It's going to be hard to get out of the city. It's going to be hard if anybody's like saying, well, do they have any food in that city? And to go in there, they're not going to be able to go in. They will risk their own lives. And it's going on. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. He's talking about social collapse and for great tribulation. But shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Whew. Wow. That's sobering, guys. And behold, says Elohim, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east, and Lebanon, and to turn themselves one against another, and repay the things that they have done to them, like as they do yet this day unto my chosen. So will I do also, and recompense in their bosom. So what's it saying? Yahweh repays. Isn't that what we said about one of the names of those guys? That he repays. So what we've seen those names being fulfilled right here in these prophecies and these words. Like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, so I will also do, and recompense in their bosom. Thus says Yahweh Elohim, my right hand shall not spare the sinner, and my sword shall not cease over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth. Woe to those in the industry that kill babies and kill the elderly and kill people for pleasure and traffic in human beings. Woe to them. That's all I can say. The fire is gone forth from his wrath and has consumed the foundations of the earth, and the sinners like the straw that is kindled. Woe to them that sin and guard not my commandments, says Yahweh. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power. Defile not my sanctuary, for Yahweh knows all them that sin against him, and therefore delivers he them into death and destruction. How much time? We just have a couple minutes left. For now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them, for Elohim shall not deliver you, because you have sinned against him. Behold, a horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, and all they which hear them fear and tremble. So by the way, do you ever think, we always think about the dragon being China, but it says here, the dragons of Arabia. Put that put that on the shelf, and let's see how that might play out later on too. The dragons of Arabia shall come with many chariots, multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth. They which hear them may fear and tremble. And also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join the battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of Ashur, that is the land of Assyria. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. But I didn't want to just brush over the stuff that we had left over last week, and we kind of put a rush on it. So I wanted to go back into it. But isn't it, I just thought that those were just gems. That's just treasures within this word that was given to Ezra during that time. And by the way, I do have a minute or so. I want to say this, and I shared a text with Eddie and Tammy and Pastor Sandy and a couple others thinking about, do you know about the great American solar eclipse that's supposed to come through this year? You know what day it's supposed to come in through? And it is supposed to come on April the 9th. April the 9th. Do you know what April the 9th is? It's right in the middle of unleavened bread. So the great American, I'm sorry, April the 6th. April the 6th. It's Shabbat. They're right in the middle of unleavened bread, April the 6th. And the solar eclipse is supposed to pass over and move from the southwest to the northeast, and it will cross where the prior solar eclipse crossed at in what is southern Illinois, or what's called Little Egypt. And so it's going to put the sign of the Tav on top of America, and it's going to happen right there at unleavened bread. And here we're talking about the second Exodus. We're talking about this great deliverance that's going to take place. And here we have the sign of the covenant, this mark that's going to be marked on America out of Egypt, across Egypt. What is that telling us? I'm thinking we need to be paying attention. I had some other thoughts that go along with it, but I'm going to ponder it some more this week. So join us on Shabbat so you might hear me talk a little bit more about it. But I just think it's of great significance. It's also marking the anniversary of the resurrection with the sign of the Tav across America. And I think it's got a lot of prophetic significance to it. So, Eddie, Tammy, yes, America is Egypt. All right, so that's enough. That's it for today. We'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Like it, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and until next time, shalom.